I just want to show you what type of greenhouse. Alberta is responsible for 1/3 of Canada's greenhouse emissions. Yeah? And oil sands are Canada's largest growing source of energy, greenhouse emissions. So we need to control this. Even Peter Lougheed, one of our former premiers, has said, we have gone without any plan, we have gone without any program, sort of growth without any plan, growth without any management. We have grown too fast in this particular sector. So we need to control this sector, we need to reduce the impact of it on the environment. That's a challenge we need to face to create a better Alberta in the future. Now, also in terms of ecological system, you have heard about how the development of Athabasca and Fort McMurray has destroyed our ecological system. That again is something that we are faced with. So one of the challenges we will face in the years ahead, how to manage the sector. It's an important sector. We cannot ignore it because it's going to be part of our revenue generating sector. But we need to manage it more responsibly and to make it more environmentally friendly and manageable. The second issue is, what is the contribution of this sector to the revenue of the province? I'm going to give you some statistics which will be shocking to you all because I wrote an article with a friend of mine in Calgary Herald. We used to write the column. The sort of title of the column was Feast or Famine. Norway and Alaska have managed all revenues better than Alberta. Norway has what is called the Government Petroleum Fund. It was started in 1990. They started putting money in 1995. Today, they have about $144 billion Canadian terms in their fund by managing their resources very carefully, by taxing, by taking the due share of the people, the sector contributes the due share. Alaska started in 1976. It has got $22.7 billion in its fund. In Alberta, we started the Alberta Heritage and Savings Trust by Lougheed at that time in the hope that it will enable us to put more money aside so during times of economic recession, during times of hardship, we can use that to stabilize the economy. We are only at $12 billion in Alberta. When Alaska, from $400 million, they have grown to $144 billion. In Alberta, we are stuck at 12. And we also started something called the Sustainability Fund. And the minister, in his latest report, said the savings for last year $17 billion. With the spending going to take place, it's going to come down to $2.8 billion in 2012. So we have squandered the wealth. Alberta, we talk about people say that we are mortgaging the future of the population when we have some debt. I may say we have robbed the future generation of their wealth because we have given the oil companies. Oil companies are important, but the government of Alberta has not managed the resources. We have squandered the wealth. We have blew up hospitals rather than building. Imagine if we built up all these type of resources, $10, $20 billion, we could have built how many hospitals? How many schools we could have built? How many roads we could have built? But we have robbed the future generation. So it is something that we need to take into consideration. So that is the second issue. Now the third issue I want to talk about is the post-secondary education. To me, because I also belong to the sector, because that's an important sector. Now, as we move away from a resource-based economy, and by the way, I want to also say, you must have heard about Rubin. Have you heard about him? He is a CIBC economist. He wrote a column recently. It's called, I want to read this for you all just to make it interesting. And he's not a liberal friend, I can tell you, he's a market as his get. But his article was recently about we should have Hugo Chavez as the Premier of Alberta. It's an interesting article. What he's saying is that for the Premier of Alberta, what he's saying is this: oil sands development can only in two parts of the world. One is Alberta, one is in Venezuela, the two countries which have got oil sands development. He says that in Venezuela, oil sands development is practically owned by the government. There's no private sector participation because it's controlled by the government. But in Alberta, we allow the oil companies to develop. And his conclusion, he says that Alberta is in a strong position now to get more revenue from this sector because we give these oil companies one of the best environment possible, one of the best climate possible. Where else can you find a province where there is no risk at all, political risk? We, as a province, no risk involved, investment is risk-free in that sense. Right? We don't change rules, we don't take away companies, we don't nationalize companies. So his conclusion to his advice to Alberta, and I want to read this to you all. So forget about taking a new political direction with the upstart Wild Rose Alliance Party. Facing a $4.5 billion deficit, maybe it's time for Albertans to pay out a Hugo's playbook and started getting a bigger share back from their biggest resources revenue. This is coming from Jeff Rubin, the man, the market economist, the political. He has never been a friend of the Liberal Party, I can tell you that. So, what we can see is that this sector has got to contribute more to the coffers of Alberta because we need to use this resource to build more hospitals, more schools and education. Let me move on to the post-secondary education because that's something I want to talk about. 3 minutes, okay. Now, so I'm going to move away from my notes and I'm going to speak from my heart now, okay? Education, to me, my mother always told me, the best thing that you can have, education, best acquisition, the best investment for a society. Because by educating our population, we have a more productive workforce, but in Alberta, we have not done our best. Do you know that in Alberta, only 49% of the high school people go to university? Because in other provinces, they got a much larger percentage. Alberta has the low